Hi Natasha, some feedback on your annotated bibliography. So here's the big picture stuff. Now I'll go back over it. So to start with, I wanted to point out at your very top, here I'll just use a different color just to kind of highlight it with, how about I highlight it with, I don't know, green. So right here I started with the page numbers. That isn't very helpful, is it? Okay. It says no page, but I suspect, since this is a scholarly journal, the Studies in Philosophy and Education, that there is a page range for this article. I'm guessing that this is a perfect example of where you might have used a citation generator. I'm wondering now if this is exactly what you were talking about today during our writing conference, where the citation generator put in no pages and you didn't realize they weren't there. And that's the same down here. This also says no pages. And I know Composition Studies is also a paper-based journal. This even says print. So if it's in print, it's got to have a page range. So you'll have to go back and find the page range for those articles. Okay. That was what that was about. Notice in these particular, the first citation or the annotation, you wrote capacity theory of writing here, and you italicized it, but then underneath it's in parentheses. So which is the correct form? I suspect it's the parentheses because it is an article, which means that you have to do the same above. All right, now I wrote writing here, and here's why. I'm going to read this to you, so hopefully it'll make sense. The theme of this article is focusing on the loss of memory in education. The authors David Jardin and Pam Reinhardt collaborated. Jardin is a Glasgow University graduate and Reinhardt is part of Calgary Board of Education. Their work is similar to a capacity blah 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 because they both discuss how writing is a result of memory. Okay, now here's actually what I was going to point out. It's not that there's a problem with it, but rather what you might notice, and I'm going to use a different color, okay? I'm going to use orange, and I'm going to go through here and write. The theme of this article is focusing on the loss of memory in education. Is it a theme? It's not literature, so it's probably the findings of this article or the focus of this article, and then you've got is focusing. So maybe just choose one on the loss of memory in education. Then you've got the authors collaborated. Yeah, okay, there's two authors, so of course they collaborated. And then you've got another short sentence. Jardin is this, Reinhardt is this. Now, if we go to the next entry, the theme of this article is focusing on. The author, Deborah, is a former educator. This work is similar. This work explains. Are you starting to see a pattern? It looks like you are putting a template together. Next one. The theme of this article, the author is, this work is similar, this work explains. The theme of this article, the authors, down below, the authors, Lee, blah, 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 collaborated. Their work is similar. So, I think you can see here what's going on. There's a real pattern, and it's like you've used a template, and there's template's not evil, but some sentence variety would be nice. So think about that as you're revising. And then also, you don't have to say people collaborated. You can just say the authors or the collaborators, or the authors. Do you even need to say this? I think you can get rid of this. You could just say the authors. You could just say Jardin is a Glasgow graduate and Reinhardt is a da-da-da, and their work is similar to blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't even know that you need that sentence in there. And sure, it helps us know that this next gal, Deborah Machuin, is an educator. That's different. It's telling us something that tells us, this does tell us why she's relevant. The author is a former educator. That's relevant. There's nothing relevant here in telling us that these people collaborated. If you get what I'm saying, I hope this makes sense. It does help us to know that the third one is an assistant professor of English, and it does help us know that, well, it doesn't help us about H. Lee Swanson and Virginia. Again, they collaborated. But it does help us know that they're an educator at UC Riverside and University of Washington. Okay, so it looks like you're trying to talk about credibility, which is good. Okay, but some stuff is not necessarily important. So this is also something we were talking about today when we looked at your first draft, is trying to figure out what you need and what you don't need. Think about what you need is information that tells us something of value, like what makes the author credible, what the main argument is. So rather than talking about the theme of an article, talk about the argument or the findings or the results. Because with academic research, those are often the types of things that they will be trying to show. What else did we want to know? We wanted the summary. We wanted to know the credibility of the sources, which we got here. We wanted to know how it's relevant to your work. So you did say this work explains how memory attends to the relationship among history. So, and this is important to you because, why? Because you're interested in memory. I mean, if you're interested in this part of it, that's fine, but you get the idea that that's about the connection. And then the other part is comparing, which you've compared. You have compared the different works. So good job on that. All right, I know I've totally scribbled on this. I hope it makes some sense.